Hello everyone, a very good morning to you. Well, actually, good afternoon, as it's just after midday local time. Welcome to the Norisring, and welcome to DTM Free Practice 1. And as you can see, this evocative circuit that we come to once a year, which I absolutely love and enthuse about year on year, as I'm sitting in for Chris Hartley this weekend. And I'm delighted to be back again, because this Norisring is something, in my opinion, really, really special, because it's such a short, tight track. And it's, in my opinion, a real leveler, because you have to do it all, and do it all within the confines of the concrete walls and the road tarmac and the no elevation changes, but surface changes, that's for sure. And already some spectators have made their way into the Norisring circuit to enjoy Free Practice 1. Here then are the track facts: 2.162 kilometers, 5 turns, and the DTM has been here since 1984, and in 2022, well, you could see what happened as they went into the Grundig turn for the first time of asking. It became something of a car park. Season finale 2021, who can ever forget Kelvin van der Linde crashing out and his title hopes gone in a heartbeat. I said it was evocative, and it drives the emotions, as I was the voice that celebrated Porsche's first victory in the DTM in 2022, and boy, there was some delight about that. It is a wonderful place, and delighted that alongside me for the first time here at the Norisring is Brian Oliver. I told you it's special, and I think you agree with me now.
Good morning, good afternoon, Dave. Yes, absolutely. What a phenomenal place. A real kind of clash of cultures, a really unusual vibe. I've never experienced anything like it. You've been telling me for the last 6 months that I'd have me socks blown off by this place. We haven't seen any racing yet, and already my socks are well and truly departed. It helps that the sun is shining, but what a unique place.
Going into this round then, Thomas Preining leading the points on 55, Frank Pereira just behind, and Ricardo Feller following then, and Mauro Engel, who of course has celebrated a victory this season. Tim Heinemann from Sim to DTM, he claims, and Mirko Bortolotti. It's not a claim, of course, from Tim Heinemann, it's absolute fact. A really charming young man, and Mirko Bortolotti P6 in the Drivers' Championship at the moment. Look at the litany of names here: Christian Engelhardt, Sheldon van der Linde, Dennis Olsen, of course the local driver Marco Wittmann, who would love to do well in front of his home crowd here in Norisring this weekend. He lives in Fürth, just down the road. Then you can see Jack Aiken, Clemens Schmidt, Lucas Auer, who we were chatting to just yesterday, and Lauren Heinrich, Josef Vega, Eintracht Guven. I mean, it's littered with talent. And René Rast, look at that, B19, driver's classification. He's got some work to do for the remainder of the season, ahead of Patrick Niederhauser. Then it's Costa Balboa and Vantor and Schumacher and Luca Engstler, ahead of Vermeulen and Argent Miney. That's the way the 26 drivers look in terms of the Drivers' Championship points at the moment. Probably have a different look to it come the end of the 2 races across this weekend. And Thomas Preining then for the Manthey team is P1 at the moment. Thomas Preining, of course, someone we've known for a number of years, and has really, really come through the ranks as we look now at the pit lane here. Temporary pit lane. You know, a few weeks before the event, all this infrastructure has to be brought in. Current air temperature 26 degrees, track temperature 30 degrees, dry, and that's the prediction for the entire weekend. It's going to be a scorcher, to be honest with you. Sun cream at the ready, although not necessary here in our really rather lovely air-conditioned studios. Boy, are we treated well. Importantly, though, before we get the free practice session underway, there is real significance to free practice this weekend. And Brian has been studying the rules and regulations as they will apply for free practice this weekend. Why is it so important, Mr. B. Oliver? Pray tell.
It is very important indeed. It's a short track, as already mentioned, just 2.3 kilometers around. Putting 28 cars out in qualifying would be a bit of a nightmare. So for this event only, today and tomorrow, the race today, the race tomorrow, the cars are going to be split into 2 groups for qualifying. Now, which group they end up in will be determined by free practice. So the combined times from this morning's and this afternoon's free practice sessions, those times will be combined for the drivers. The drivers will then be divided from that into 2 groups as we see the cars now rushing out of the pit lane. More urgency than normal because these sessions are important. So the fastest time from the combined free practice sessions will form the first car in Group 1.
Yes.
3rd, 5th, 7th, 9th, and so on down the order.
So will all line up behind that car.
So that will be the first group. The second group will be times 2, 4, 6, 8.
Oh, I see.
And so on down the order. So they will go in individual groups. Then in qualifying tomorrow, Group 1 will go first. The fastest time from that will be on the front row. The fastest time in Group 2 will also be on the front row.
But from P2.
But the pole position will be determined by which of those 2 fastest drivers in Group 1 and 2 are the quickest, and that will determine which car lines up on pole position, and the remainder of that group will line up behind him. So
Clear
it could be, with the track potentially getting quicker as the day goes on in qualifying, you will potentially have Group 2 lining up on pole position, potentially.
Right.
It makes no sense at all.
Clear as mud.
I didn't rehearse that. It shows, doesn't it?
Clearly. Right. So, at last, we have cars out. Now, it's short sharp because there's just 45 minutes. And you can see him rounding the final turn now. And this is brilliant to watch. I cannot enthuse enough about this wonderful Norisring circuit. And, of course, the DTM back here once again in 2023. Here comes Sheldon van der Linde then into the pit lane right now. He's been out for something of a sighting lap already. He was, in fact, right at the front of the queue of the cars to get out there and almost used everything he could to get to the front of that queue because there was a stack of cars, wasn't there, all of a sudden making their way out on track just to get their eye in. We have had things out there for other practice sessions, so there'll be a bit of rubber down on the circuit, but not much, I would suggest. And one element I want to really show to you, as I explain the Norisring to you, is when we get to the Scholler S's, you know, there is a real change of surface. It won't be quite so critical this weekend because the weather prediction is for it to be really, really good all weekend long. But I have seen in days gone by folklore of yore when it's been wet and you go from tarmac to concrete, and boy, that does make a difference. Here we are then in this wonderful chicane then. I love it. There you can see, Brian, the tarmac public road, and then to the very left of that, where that unforgiving concrete wall is concrete paving slabs. And you'll see the drivers really come off the Scholler S and almost scrub on the concrete, and that's how close they get at various points around this circuit. It really does deliver fantastic entertainment. You and I come from a short oval motor racing background. Therefore, we love the whole concept of really concentrating everything into quite a short track because it means entertainment with a capital E underlined and in bold.
Yes, I mean, it's the equivalent to, as once famously said, riding a bicycle around your bedroom, isn't it? It's lots of speed in an enclosed space, and if you get it wrong, there is no room for error. Those concrete walls are not going anywhere, and of course, with that surface that changes, and you saw the paving slabs, that's going to unsettle the car. This is a whole new level of skill. We had the undulating banked circuit at Zandvoort just a couple of weeks ago. This could not be any more different. There are no gravel traps, no banking, no smooth surface. This is really going to challenge the drivers.
We go live on board with Ricardo Feller then for our Sportsline. And Ricardo Feller giving it everything he can now. Late breaking into the Scholler S's. You try and almost rub the barriers on the inside and then on the out, and this is where they get so close to the concrete. My goodness me, hold on to your knickers because it is so exciting. And then carrying all the speed you can, building all the power that you can before bang on the brakes again for the left-hander at the Dutzendijk turn. Brilliant. Now the start-finish straight isn't. There's a kink there, as you can see, and again you have to get really close to the concrete. At the moment, Mauro Engel is quickest. No, make that Kelvin van der Linde ahead of Mauro Engel, and Ricardo Feller, who we ride on board with, is currently P3 with a time of 51.326. You will see, Brian, over the course of this free practice session, that the margins will be down to tenths and 100ths.
Yeah, and we'd expect the lap time to come down significantly. Of course, Kelvin van der Linde, the first into the 50s. Both the van der Linde brothers have had a pretty rubbish start to the season by their standards. defending champion Sheldon van der Linde is desperate to get some good points this weekend. And he is going to have to work hard on that because he had a very, very poor time at Oschersleben. Not a great time, but he got a second place at Zandvoort, but then followed that up with a 10th place. You saw how eager he was getting out first off in this session. And Kelvin van der Linde, his brother, also a lot of work to do.
Yeah, and Kelvin, of course, has got a big, big history here for good and bad reasons, of course, here at the Norisring. But that's part of the entertainment spectacle of the DTM, and that's why we absolutely love it with all our hearts. Marco Wittmann has gone fourth quickest, the local star from Fürth, just down the road. He always gets really big support here. And of course, Marco Wittmann will be hoping to impress his legions of fans that will be around these fantastic grandstands. But we ride wide on board with Ricardo Feller. Good exit there to the inside of that number 54 car. Driven, of course, by... who drives 54? Come on, Brian.
54. There isn't a 54.
It's 94. It's used
94 is Frank Pereira.
Frank Pereira. Idiots.
Put your glasses on.
It's van der Linde from Olsen, from Engel, from Guven, from Wittmann, Preining, Feller, Rast, Heinrich, and Sheldon van der Linde. The van der Linde brothers sandwiching the top 10 at the moment.
And Marco Wittmann, we've already mentioned him, the low-court man. He is on the crest of a wave at the moment. He's just won the Spa 24-hour race.
What a result. Yeah.
And he is a man who is absolutely buzzing. We saw him briefly yesterday. He is going to be on a mission this weekend. Whatever you may think, he will be on a mission.
Of course he will. You know, I've often said, and I've had this conversation with Marco in years gone by, you know, having all the local support here, you know, it brings real positive energy for you as a driver. It also brings huge responsibility because you feel like you're letting them down if you don't deliver. So it's, you know, there's positives and negatives to take out of it, and we just saw his car very briefly then. Here's Ayhan Guven then, driver of the number 24 Porsche, who is currently fourth fastest. The van der Linde brothers have decided they want to be the meat in the sandwich now between Dennis Olsen and Ayhan Guven because they're P2 and P3. Ayhan Guven then on something of a mission here, going fourth fastest. With a time of 50.623. Who is going to be the first of the drivers, and are we going to see it in FP1 that goes into the 49s? Of course we will, Dave. Have confidence because the track will rubber in, and Ayhan Guven is going quicker. Let's see what he can do in that number 24 Porsche, which has been demoted to P6 now as René Rast, who has good memories of this Norisring place, goes P5 as we get 50.094. We are within 9/100ths of breaking into the 49s, and it's Sheldon van der Linde that has got closest so far, ahead of Dennis Olsen and Ayhan Guven. And it's changing all the time, and of course there's still 37 minutes to run. Now, Maro Engel is a racing driver that's been around for a long, long time, got lots and lots of experience, Brian, in particularly in these wonderful GT cars, and he knows how to deliver, and indeed has delivered in DTM.
Yeah, and especially so at Zandvoort last time out. Of course, he won from pole position in race one, and then with the success penalty on board, still came home in fifth place. He had a fabulous time in Zandvoort. He is a man who's very much moving forwards once again. Looking at this circuit, look how busy it is. It's such a short circuit, all the cars out, and just to remind you, unlike normal free practice, both this and the other free practice session later on today count because it will determine order for qualifying, and those who go latest in the day in qualifying tomorrow are going to be in with a better shot of pole position.
Of course, conditions for qualifying later on this afternoon might be a bit cooler. There's not going to be a lot in terms of temperature deck between now and then, but we're watching Sheldon van der Linde right now, who bails this lap.
Yeah, he's finding a bit of space, is he? As he's not coming into the pit, so he's just finding a bit of space. The cars are so tight together. You don't want to be running nestled up to the car in front. There's no slipstream to pick up here because there is no opportunity to get that kind of speed.
But it's really, really difficult to buy free tarmac here as well because it's such a busy place and such a short track. This is where the interface, if you will, between you and the team is critical because the engineers, they're watching the data all the time. They know where every driver is, you know, the GPS map that is available to them. They can pass that information on to their driver and ensure that their driver gets out in as clear a gap as he possibly can to try and improve his position. At the moment, it is Sheldon van der Linde who is quickest with a 50.094 ahead of Ayhan Guven, then Sheldon's brother Kelvin, who is third fastest. Then it's Rennie Rast, Tim Heinemann, Marco Wittmann, Dennis Olsen, Lauren Heinrich, and it's changing all the time, as you would expect. So we stay with Sheldon van der Linde, running the clock on Sheldon van der Linde. First sector, okay. Second sector, absolutely brilliant. He breaks the timing beam, and so 50.226 for Sheldon van der Linde that time around. You can see the middle sector, by dint of the purple colouring behind it, meant that he was quickest overall in that particular sector.
Yeah, and we saw him back out of it, clearly finding the space, building up the heat in the tyres. Of course, tyre warmers not allowed in DTM. Like you need tyre warmers in this heat, but yes, you do need to get heat into the tyres and the brakes. So I'd expect this lap to be the one that counts. And in Sector 1, he goes quickest of anybody. An 18.468 in Sector 1 is pretty good. Also quickest of anybody in Sector 2. So we can do this in Sector 3 as well, which is going to come up very quickly indeed. He is going to be into the 49 surely. Let's see what he can do as he comes out to complete the lap and into Sector 3. Is he going to be the first driver into the 49s?
We will see momentarily. Lauren Heinrich going through now. Sure enough, Sheldon van der Linde does go quickest with a 49.863. It was a good lap, and it's a full 3/10 ahead of Rennie Rast, who is currently second fastest, Thomas Preining third fastest. And there is the number 91 car of Thomas Preining right now. We run the clock on Thomas Preining. First sector, personal best. Second sector, better than anyone. Thomas Preining heading to break the timing beam now. 50.058, 5/100ths into the 50s still. The only driver into the 49s is Sheldon van der Linde. The one thing that we don't have to worry too much about here at the Norisring is track limits, because if you exceed the track limits, basically you're rubbing your bottom up against concrete and it's going to hurt. So no one has a track limits problem here at the Norisring, or if you do, it tends to be pretty devastating for you. Heinemann then is 8th fastest, so Tim Heinemann then with a time that gives him 8th fastest at 50.275.
I'm keeping an eye on the other end of the table. Mick Wieshofer currently in the pits. He's had 3 non-finishes out of 4 races, and a 22nd place is the only thing that he has recorded this year. Currently in the pits, he's a driver who is very, very rapid, but for some bad luck, he should have been in the points. He's currently in the pits at the moment, hasn't put in a competitive time, so Mick Wieshofer will be looking to turn that around.
Just looking at the timing screen at the moment, no one is going purple, so no one is really troubling. We're watching David Schumacher right now. Now, he's further down the order than he would like. P11 at the moment. Is he going to improve with this lap? Stays P11, so David Schumacher now going. He's got a bit of space ahead of him now. He's seen off the traffic that was around him, so expect perhaps a better lap now from Mr. Schumacher. Then we run the clock on him, we'll get the sector times, and we will see if he is able to propel that Mercedes around this Norisring circuit to some effect. Loving these cameras that give us just such a great vantage point of those cars really getting as close to the concrete as you would dare. In fact, I thought my car parking skills and being able to get close to other cars in the supermarket car park was good. It's naught in comparison to these wonderful drivers. As Rennie Rast now also goes into the 49s. Schumacher tries to shortcut the lap as best as he can. Breaks the timing beam now with a 50.249. So it's nearly 6/10ths down on those front runners at the moment, them being Sheldon van der Linde and Rennie Rast.
It's good to see 2 BMWs at the top. Just to remind you that we have not had a BMW win a race this year yet. We've had 4 different winners, 4 different pole sitters, and 4 different brand winners. One of them has not been BMW. Rennie Rast and Jack Aitken. The heat is on for both of them because neither of them were at Zandvoort. They were away doing other things. So they have got a lot of points to make up. Rennie Rast in that 3rd place, Jack Aitken all the way down in 21st. If they want to make a genuine attack on the title here in DTM, they need to be scoring points in every race for the rest of this season.
Big shout out to Lucas Auer, who, whilst Brian was waxing lyrical, has gone P2 with a 49.873. So we've got 3 drivers in the 49s. They are Sheldon van der Linde, Luigi Auer, and Rennie Rast. And they're ahead of Tim Heinemann, Thomas Preining, Kelvin van der Linde, Arjen Meini, good showing from Arjen Meini, P7. Then it's Lauren Heinrich, Marco Wittmann, and Ian Chan Guven. They are the top 10 at the moment, as indicated on the graphics on the left-hand side of your screen. 30 minutes remaining in this free practice session. We're live from the Norisring as Thomas Priding now goes P3, and it's a 49.884. So now we're up to 4 drivers in the 49s. All of a sudden, the times are not tumbling down, but by tenths and 100ths, Brian, they are coming down. The best of them is Sheldon van der Linde, and across the top 4 drivers, can I just tell you how close it is? 4 100ths split the top 4. That's how close we get in DTM.
Yeah, it's not unusual to see the entire field separated from a little over a second. You can see from these shots the black line, so the rubber is starting to go down. That will only mean that the track will get quicker and quicker. Each lap, the cars are laying down more rubber. Thomas Priding, the quickest of anybody in Sector 1. Lucas Auer, the quickest of anybody in Sector 2. So it's not just the BMWs now that are setting the pace. Of course, Thomas Priding in the Porsche and Lucas Auer in the Mercedes. So we're keeping an eye on those times. We're going to get down to the lower parts of the 49s before this session is over, I reckon. There is Thomas Priding steering his way around. So it was an 18.4 in Sector 1. Not especially quick in sectors 2 and 3, so he hasn't improved on that. We're also keeping an eye on Tim Heinemann, of course, the driver who went into Zandvoort 2 weeks ago as the championship leader, came out of Zandvoort as 5th in the championship. That's how close the championship fight is.
Kelvin van der Linde has just posted a time identical to Sheldon van der Linde. How often does that happen? But both of them have been usurped. What a great word that is. By Lucas Auer, who goes top with a 49.706. So 49.706, then 2 drivers on 49.843, and ironically, both the drivers come from the same family, the van der Linde brothers. It's like a chain of ice cream shops, isn't it? Ahead of Thomas Priding and René Rast and Tim Heinemann.
Isn't that incredible? You look at the van der Linde brothers, you've got 2 completely different concepts of car, different engine sizes. One's a front engine, the other's a mid-engine, and yet around here, they've set an identical time to the last 1,000th of a second. All hail the balance of performance.
All hail. All hail. What? Absolute rubbish. Lucas Auer, Sheldon van der Linde, Kelvin van der Linde, Thomas Priding, a real mix of manufacturers, which again just reinforces what you were saying about how they regulate this series, and everyone is in there. Every manufacturer is in there. It's what we love about the DTM. Close, tight, phenomenal racing. And of course, we're not even racing yet. This is only free practice, for goodness sake. Marco Wittmann, where is he? Not where he wants to be at the moment. It's P9.
Yeah, he's got a bit of work to do from there. Just to remind you once again, this is the most important free practice session, this and the one later on this afternoon, of the season, because the free practice counts and will affect what order they're able to qualify in. And I would say the grid position here is going to be everything. Such a tight track, a track that courts controversy. The best way to be out of the controversy is to be escaping somewhere off the road up front. And the man in the best position for that at the moment, Lucas Auer, with the 49.706. It's weird saying a lap time that doesn't have a 1 at the beginning. 49 seconds for a lap time. That's how short this circuit is.
It is. But for all its shortness, for all it may not have in terms of physical stature, by goodness, it delivers and over-delivers in terms of entertainment. I cannot tell you just how good this place is. So Lucas Auer then, as Brian was saying, 49.706, the best of the drivers so far. And as you can see, despite propelling the Mercedes around here as well as he is doing this particular lap, he's not going to trouble his previous best lap. So he's going to stay where he is for the moment. It will be a non-improvement for Lucas Auer, 49.740. 3 100ths slower than his previous lap. So I take it back, Lucas. You were pushing. Apologies to your friend. Still the van der Linde brothers, P2 and P3 ahead of Thomas Priding and René Rast and Tim Heinemann and Arjun Maini, Marco Wittmann and Frank Pereira, and Lauren Heinrich at the moment is supporting the 9 drivers ahead of him by being P10.
So it is now heading towards the halfway point of this session, and lots of data has been gathered. About half the cars out on the track, the other half in the pits, and again finding the space. Of course, it's not just about setting fast times, it's about getting a setup for the race. The race is 1 hour long plus 1 lap, so the drivers need to, and the teams need to get a good setup for the race need to get a good balance. So it's about gathering data, about getting the right balance on the car so that it'll last the full hour. And of course, tyres are everything. Tyres are very regulated here. You can't just keep throwing tyres at the car. You have a very limited number available to you over the weekend.
So it's as much about tyre preservation during the course of the sessions as well. And at the moment, there are no purple sectors for us to look at. It remains then the Sheldon van der Linde, Kelvin van der Linde, Thomas Preining and Marco Wittmann. And there is the Marco Wittmann BMW, the Schaeffler liveried car that we look at, of course, run by Project One. And Marco Wittmann in front of his home crowd here. This is Ayan Guven then, who has looked very, very lively at the start of the session. But now finds himself, dare I say it, somewhat languishing down there in P12, just behind Mirko Bortolotti. He's got Lucas Auer right up his trumpet now as well. Here comes Christian Engelhardt. Christian Engelhardt finds himself further down the order than he would like. He's P18 at the moment, just behind Dennis Olsen. Another young whippersnapper that I've had the privilege of talking about for more years than I care to remember. Christian Engelhardt then remains P18. It's Auer, van der Linde. Thomas Preining is P4, then Wittmann, Rast, Heinemann, Meini, Pereira, and Lucas Stoltz into the top 10 now and relegating Lauren Heinrich to P11, Brian.
Yes, Lauren Heinrich still trying to find his feet really in DTM. The outgoing Porsche Carrera Cup Germany champion, 7th place at Oschersleben has been his best result of the season so far. 2 non-finishers at Zandvoort have not helped him. We did mention tyres and the limitations. It is 2 sets of slick tyres that are nominated for each car, and they have to be tyres that were used at a previous event. In addition, each car is allowed to have 1 new set of brand new tyres. Listen to team radio.
At the moment, main issue, turn 2 and 3, off brakes, understeer. No difference if I'm on or off throttle, but on the brakes I have front and off brakes I do not.
Pay attention, Thomas, instead of waving to us. You need to listen to what you're being told there, friend. Slap me for that later.
I was going to say about the tyres, also, each car is allowed to have 1 new set of tyres. I would suggest they're going to be saving those to this afternoon session when the track is going to be quickest. There's a bit of smoke there. It's Marco Wittmann coming out of the pit box. You think he might have lit up the tyres a bit there, by any chance?
He wasn't thinking about tyre longevity then as he launched the rears. And out he comes then, adjusting the brake bias as we look at him. So Marco Wittmann going for it again. He's P6 at the moment. And you could see that there was a strife there almost for a moment as Christian Engelhardt took evasive action and dived up the inside and just went through. Marco Wittmann, of course, on something of an installation lap this time around. Expect him to go quicker next time around, and it'll be very interesting to see how Marco Wittmann can propel himself up from that P6 position that he finds himself in at the moment. We still have just under 22 minutes of this free practice session remaining, and of course the free practice sessions today with real meaning behind them, particularly when it comes to qualifying and indeed subsequently, of course, the 2 races to come across the course of this weekend. Let's go on board now and enjoy this wonderful shot as we go inside the car. And not only that, we're going to split the screen for you so you can see the driver hard at work into the cockpit, and also what his inputs are doing with regards to the how the car looks out there on track. I love this split screen. Great job being done by our colleagues in the trucks here that produce these wonderful pictures of Ricardo Feller absolutely throwing this car. That's how close they get, Brian. That's why I hit the roof with excitement because I stood on my foot.
I'm so sorry.
Lummers.
The excitement of it all.
The excitement was such that his chair went back and then he launched it into my foot.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Lump.
Ricardo Feller.
No, not him, you. Ricardo Feller then, whilst we were complaining about each other's movements inside here, delivers a 50.998. Dennis Olsen has gone second fastest. P2 for Dennis Olsen. What I love about this, Brian, is the mix of manufacturers look all the way through, littered. This is what I said right at the beginning of the program, that I always believe that the Norisring is something of a leveler with regards to how the cars perform. Look at that. I didn't get as close to that wall on my bicycle last night.
I tell you what else is significant. The first 2 rounds, Oschersleben and Zandvoort, are both tracks that featured heavily last year and in the years before on the GT Masters calendar. And the GT Masters drivers were very much towards the front on the timing screens. The Norisring circuit is one that is more familiar to those that have been in the DTM long term. And look at the top of the timing screens: Lucas Auer, Sheldon van der Linde, Dennis Olsen. Yeah, these are the drivers that are not former GT Masters drivers, and many of whom have been in DTM for a number of years. They know this place and they know how to get around it.
Very unlike you. You make a valid point.
Doesn't happen very often. Write that one down.
Jolly right it doesn't. So it is Lucas Auer then. And as we look at Frank Pereira, let's hear his team radio.
We will see in second practice for the break. We try to keep this one all session, and we put another set of tire which is used as this one when we start.
Okay, so that tells us a scrub set going on there, a used set of tyres for Frank Pereira, who is currently down there P14 at the moment. Just those wonderful images that we have inside the car. I mean, they're a complicated thing to drive, you know, these DTM cars. It's just, you know, not like our rental car, which couldn't be more simple. Wheels and a steering wheel, and that's it. No other features about it at all. You know, to get the most out of these cars, you know, you really have to work at it, don't you? And again, I'm going back to the interface between your engineer and you as the driver. You know, so critically important. And there is no doubt about it across every motor racing discipline, Brian. I am tempted to say that those drivers that have a really succinct relationship with their engineers, I mean, that they perform so well.
Yes, and Thomas Preining is the case in point. He actually talks to his engineer pretty well every day. His engineer is Kai Sterling, and they talk on the phone almost every day, even during the winter. That's the kind of relationship you need with your engineer. They need to know how you think, you need to know how they think.
Yeah.
The two work in harmony. Some of these drivers see their engineers more than they see their partners.
I'm going to park that right there and not say anything about that because I'd get into awful trouble. So, as you can see, we've kind of reached a little bit of a lull in this free practice session, but it is going to all light up again before the end, before the checkered flag comes out. You can see a number of cars driving into the pit lane. We've still got a dozen or so cars out there on the track, but it is also very interesting to get the images as the cars come into the pit lane as well and the engineers go to work. Now, bearing in mind, Brian, all these guys with their crash helmets on and their fireproof engineers suits, etc., they're doing that in blistering heat as well. As we ride on board with Maro Engel right now, they never engage reverse. The engineer's responsibility to push the cars back into the garage, and Maro sits there as a passenger, doesn't even have to steer the darn thing. So the Mercedes-AMG team man filter driver then is being reversed into his garage, and of course he will be discussing with his engineer all the time as well. So where is Maro Engel at the moment? He's much further down the order than he would like, P13.
Yeah.
So some work for Maro to do before the end of this session. You can see him shaking his head there, can't you? And is clearly not absolutely happy with everything at the moment. So they will do their best to work on that. Here comes Lucas Auer then filing out of the pit lane to go again. He, of course, remains P1 at the moment. And we can also see the number 63 car of Clemens Schmidt being brought out of the garage also. So 16 and a quarter minutes remaining in this free practice session. Free practice one as we're following Luca Engstler right now. The team, of course, run by his father, Franz, and also in there, keeping them all keen and mean, is former DTM star Manuel Reuter, of course. And I had a long chat with Manuel a couple of weeks ago. I find him a really interesting man to talk to. Very clever, very knowledgeable. And, of course, bringing all the experience that he and, of course, Franz Engstler, Franz must be a little bit older than me, which makes him jolly near ancient. And he, of course, able to pass on all that experience to the young whippersnapper that is Luca Engstler. Talking of young whippersnappers, Tim Heinemann, who I have to say I'm really impressed with. He's P6 at the moment. Can I also just give a big shout out to the livery on his Porsche, because I think it is eye-shatteringly gorgeous. Look at that.
They had over 200 designs that were submitted for that car, and that was eventually decided upon after much consultation, and it is one of the most outstanding liveries ever. But they looked at 200 different designs before they settled upon that one.
Did I lead you into that one quite nicely?
Beautifully, beautifully.
That's what we call in broadcasting terms a bit of a junction there.
That's what I call a fluke, but there we go.
Right. The illusion shattered of our professionalism then as we continue to watch Tim Heinemann then. 212.6 kilometers per hour through the speed trap. And that's a remarkable speed around this Norisring circuit. Is he going to be into the 49s? Not quite. 50.026, 2 100ths away from it, which means he's now been bested by René Rast. Let's ride on board with the local driver now, Marco Wittmann, who is currently P7. And driving for the Project One team, of course, run by Hans Bernd Kamps, a hugely enigmatic character. Known Hans Bernd for 100 years, and what a great guy he is. And of course, Marco Wittmann has been involved with that team for a number of years. In fact, when his career started, his motor racing career, of which he has enjoyed so much success, the man for just down the road here. Sector time's not looking brilliant at the moment for Marco Wittmann. This is probably not going to be an improvement. He's got cars ahead of him. If he could buy some space, maybe we would see an improvement. So a 50.573. Here you can see this is exactly what he's trying to do. We go onto the rear splitter for the rearward onboard shot here around the Grundig hairpin, which is where we are right now. He's got clear tarmac ahead of him. So what can Marco Wittmann do? We're heading up towards the Scholler S's now. Carry as much speed in as you can. Get as close as you dare to the BWT banners. And then scrape the concrete jolly near with your rear view mirror. And it's full chat flat all the way to the Duitsendijk turn.
Isn't that a great shot? The camera in the front
awesome.
grille gives you a real impression of speed, doesn't it? And you can see how close to those walls he actually gets, and they're all doing that, really dicing with it all. There are three different manufacturers now in the top three, because Kelvin van der Linde has been overtaken by Thomas Preining in the timings, but it's a Mercedes that leads a BMW from a Porsche. The Ferrari's really struggling. Jack Aitken down in 24th, Thierry Vermeulen down in 25th, so a bit of work to be done for the Emil Frey racing team. Lot of work for them, and they are at the wrong end of the timing screen.
But they are such a resourceful team. They will be looking at everything they can as we continue to look at Marco Wittmann. As he moves from the tarmac to the concrete paved area, this is what it looks like inside his wonderful BMW DTM car, the M4 GT3. Getting this pinpoint perfect as you come out of that Duitsendijk turn, then just kiss the kink so that you're making it as straight as possible. Only pay extra for that, don't you? And Marco Wittmann gets to the line. 50.255. 219.9 kilometers per hour. It's Lucas Auer from Sheldon van der Linde and Dennis Olsen and Thomas Preining and Kelvin van der Linde and Tim Heinemann before you get to this man that we ride on board with, Marco Wittmann. Loving these onboard shots from the splitter cam right down at the bottom of the car, so you get the real sensation of speed, and then the real sensation of the car. Panel rubbing up against the concrete barriers. We absolutely love it.
And of course, Project One, who have such a strong presence here at Norisring this weekend, and very key in the BMW M2 Cup as well. Fielding Marco Wittmann, what a great team, what a great driver. And you can see him absolutely focused on what he's doing. There are no rooms for errors. There is no room for error. Absolutely inch perfect, needs to be all weekend. One mistake would wreck the entire weekend. Moving to the inside of the Porsche of Christian Engelhardt by the looks of things, and finding a little bit more space.
He's really going for it here, Marco, but he's still very nearly 3/10 down through sector one, and he is trying, but at the moment he's not making much headway with regards to moving himself and vaulting himself up the order. Do bear in mind that this is only a free practice session. It's not qualifying, but actually free practice does take quite a bit of significance for this race weekend uniquely here at the Norisring. And there you can see on the inside, he goes past the BMW to the right-hand side, and Marco Wittmann again now giving it everything he can. 220.3 kilometers per hour now. He's going quicker, Brian. But it's going to, over the final 10 minutes, I would suggest to you that it's going to become a very, very busy stretch of tarmac.
Yeah, and there's a lot of work to do. They're not just tugging around for 45 minutes trying to see who goes fastest. There is an entire race to be planned for, which will take place tomorrow, and another race on Sunday. They need to have a setup that goes the distance. They need the tyres to last the full hour, both tomorrow and Sunday. And I would just point out the weather forecast for Sunday says the temperatures are going to be in the mid-30s. So tyre degradation, even on a circuit of this size, is going to be critical on Sunday. They need to have a setup where the car won't just be quick over one lap, but will be quick over a 1 hour duration.
You could hear everyone rejoice by virtue of the fact that they're not just tugging around. Oh, thank you.
Yes, indeed.
Jolly pleased about that.
Yes, that's the technical term
yes,
that we brought in here.
Begorra, it's a similar one. Lucas Auer, Sheldon van der Linde, Dennis Olsen, the top three. And then it's Thomas Preining, Kelvin van der Linde, Lauren Heinrich, Marco Wittmann stays P7 ahead of René Rast, 2 DTM champions former together there, P7 and P8 at the moment. This is Lucas Stoltz, who we're watching now. Sector time coming up for you, and the sector boards are painted white at the moment, Brian, which means, and I am surprised by this because I thought that the fastest times would come towards the end of this FP session. Mind you, we've still got 8.5 minutes to come.
Yeah, and we've still got another session this afternoon.
Yes,
I think they're probably going to be saving the times for that, to be quite honest, because it's the combination of both free practices that will set the order that they qualify in.
Yes.
You did just mention
I adjusted or adjusted?
the Luca Stoltz car. Luca in 9th place at the moment. He had a horrendous time at Oschersleben. They pretty well destroyed the car in free practice earlier. Prior to the weekend even starting, they had to get a new car in on the Saturday. He had 2 non-finishes. Started on the back foot all for the entire season. Had a good time at Zandvoort, though, with 2 14th places, but really needs to be further up. I say 2, sorry, not 14th places. 11th place and a 3rd place. We got with close, Adam up, that's 14. He did get a podium at Zandvoort, but having had 2 non-finishes, he started off on the back foot. I'll just go and get my coat and sit out the back.
Right, let's deal with that.
Switch me off.
Found the button that turns him off.
I'm going to go out and have a cup of tea. That's it. I'm off. Bye.
Lucas Auer, Sheldon van der Linde then, still the P1 and P2 places. Then it's Dennis Olsen and Thomas Preining. So, the number 94 car that we're watching now, and Frank Pereira and Marco Wittmann, we run them side by side in terms of their sector times here, and it's interesting. 2 completely different cars, Brian, but the pattern of the sector performances is similar. Very, very interesting to watch. Here's Marco Wittmann. I didn't do that.
It's myself on. It is, yes. Frank Pereira, once again, the fastest of the Lamborghini runners. He has been so consistent this year. Of course, he won the first race of the season, but the Lamborghini's in the bottom half of the field. But Frank Pereira up there in 12th place, so he's broken free of the remaining Lamborghinis that are all towards the back end of the field. But Pereira, he seems to really stepped up a gear this year. Really has been competitive in every race.
A big shout out also to David Schumacher, who's P13 at the moment. Arjun Maini, who featured in the top 10 for quite a while earlier on in the session. Ricardo Feller, who we were talking about, is down there now, P19. Then we see the likes of Clemens Schmidt and Luca Engstler, Mick Wiesofer, Mattia Drudi, Jack Aitken, as you were mentioning. They're having a tough time of it with the 296, and Thierry Vermeulen as well. Dalada is currently P27 as we ride once again on board. Courtesy of Auto Hero with Marco Wittmann for Project 1, who's nibbling away at the times, Brian.
Yeah, he's in 7th at the moment, so he's got a bit of work to do from there. Just looking at the times, can you believe 7.5 tenths, a little over 7.5 tenths, separates the top 23 cars. That's why every inch counts.
It's phenomenal. It's every centimetre.
Every millimetre.
It's phenomenal that when you consider the margin of, as you say, the top 23 cars split by tenths only. extraordinary and is some testament to just how good this series is.
Yeah.
And how well regulated it is. Marco Wittmann now, as you can see, he's got lots of traffic ahead of him. What do we got left? Just on 5 minutes or so. Ricardo Feller has done a personal best in Sector 1. We'll keep an eye on that. I was saying earlier on that Ricardo Feller featured right at the sort of top end of the times earlier on. At the moment, he's languishing down there in P19. So more to come, I feel, from the Audi driver here as Ricardo Feller heads to break the timing beam now. And it's a 50.215. So 5 3/4 tenths down on the P1 time, which may I remind you has been set by one Mr. Lucas Auer, a 49.541.
Just to remind you that Ricardo Feller won the last race from pole position, so he is a man on a mission. So 19th place, but at the moment, yes, the times are important, but not absolutely vital at this stage. Dennis Olsen has been the quickest of anybody, so 18.418 in Sector 1.
Whoa, come on, Dennis Olsen.
15.931 in Sector 2, so that is
down
7 tenths down
and
on the fastest.
The middle sector, of course, you know, containing that hairpin. So that's where Dennis Olsen has lost out 51.558 now. So Dennis Olsen doesn't improve his time, then not troubling the previous best time from Dennis Olsen, which has given him P3 in this free practice session as we watch Ricardo Feller just hugging the concrete a little bit. Here is Dennis Olsen then, who again through the first sector has gone like Billy-O. Billy-O is a different chap to me, but he has gone quickest through Sector 1. Now, can Dennis Olsen find what he's been missing through this middle sector? Keep an eye on this. Brian's eyes are glued to the timing screen.
No, 2 tenths down on the quickest, still by Lucas Auer. Can I just point out, every single car is out on the track bar 1 at the moment, so it is very busy out there.
Right. Well, Dennis Olsen heads towards the timing beam now. It's a 49.718.
That's very
which
good.
Does move him up the order to P2.
If he could do something about that Sector 2 and find a bit of pace there, he really would be at the very top, because Sector 2 is where he's losing the speed. Again, different parts of the track suit different dynamics of different brands of car.
Indeed, and may I say, driving style as well, perhaps.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, Dennis Olsen, though, is such an experienced pilot. He knows everything there is to know about Porsches, so they'll be focusing on that Sector 2 and seeing how they can find a bit of speed in that bit, because if they can do that without compromising Sectors 1 and 3...
Look, how he's slowing up now, getting ready for another lap. The bespectacled Dennis Olsen, then, who we've known for many, many years from his junior racing days, always a talent, and just reinforcing that by having gone on the last lap to second fastest, as Mirko Bortolotti is also looking a tad lively now, just as I was mentioning him earlier on. Mirko Bortolotti then.
He becomes the fastest of the Lamborghini runners, so from Pereira is in 14th and Mirko Bortolotti up into 12th. So yeah, the quickest of the Lamborghini runners. Look, both Ferraris in the bottom 3. Hard work to be done for Emil Frey.
So Frank Pereira and Mirko Bortolotti, then we run the graphics on right now to keep an eye on their times. Mirko Bortolotti's sector times are not brilliant. He's about 3 tenths down. So Mirko Bortolotti currently sitting P13. I don't think this lap is going to be an improvement. He'll have time for a couple more laps if he chooses to stay out there before the session is brought to a close. Where has the time gone in this qualifying session?
Flown past, hasn't it?
It has flown past.
Yeah, brilliant. And so spectacular here. You could lose 45 minutes very easily here at the Norisring because it is such a spectacular circuit.
Lucas Auer is continuing to go even better.
Yeah, fastest of anybody in Sector 2. That's impressive. 15.1 in Sector 2. That is red hot for Lucas Auer. He is the man who is dialed in here. He's done many laps here at the Norisring, putting that experience to good use.
I'd like to say it was my coaching when he and I had a conversation yesterday that's done this, you know, but I can't say that.
I mean, he's done an incredible job recovering from fractured vertebrae over the winter. He showed us the scar yesterday, and you don't want to be looking at that before you have a meal.
No,
it's the length of his back, wasn't it?
Made me feel a bit tad bilious, if I'm honest with you. So, but Lucas Auer with a 49.564. Ricardo Feller, the Sector 1, looked really, really good. Now, Lucas Auer is not going to trouble. Oh, he's coming to the pit lane. That will be it. His session is over now. Let's ride on board now with Ricardo Feller then for the Abt Sportsline team with Martin Tomczyk, of course, barking the orders down the radio, and Martin himself with a tad of success in his racing career, it's fair to say.
Yeah.
And, whoa, look at the rear wing. Look how it flexes, Brian. When you're up against the barriers out into the tarmac, and Mattia Drudi also looking pretty good here with personal best through Sector 1 and Sector 2. Trying to improve on his really rather lowly P24 at the moment as the checkered flag is out. And Sven Stopper, our race director, has said that's it for the session, and Mattia Drudi does improve one place. And here comes Ricardo Feller, who does not. And, you know, for a driver that the beginning of the session was looking really, really lively, Brian, it's P18. But, okay, these are free practice sessions.
Yeah, and we've got to do it all again this afternoon, potentially on fresher rubber.
Yeah, potentially. And we did hear some of the engineers just advising what they're going to do with regards to the tyres. So we're following Sheldon van der Linde, if my vision is not impaired still further, and Ricardo Feller doesn't like following Sheldon van der Linde and goes past him on his way into the pit lane. I remind you, all the structures here at the Norisring in terms of the infrastructure needed for a race event as great as this, all brought in for the weekend. And I have to say, while we have the opportunity during this free practice session to each and every person that makes this event a possibility, a big thank you from us, because it is truly spectacular and wonderful, and we love coming here.
And this is the first free practice session of the year where we haven't had a track limits warning flash up on our time.
Oh, funny that.
Just a bit.
Yeah, there'll be a reason for that. So the cars then being pushed back into the garages, which again are all temporary. You wouldn't know it. I mean, we were in the garages yesterday, I hasten to add, by a complete invitation by the teams, where we were really not really very wanted. But
asking idiot questions, that's what I was doing.
Here's confirmation of the classification then from free practice 1. Taking the top step is Lucas Auer ahead of Dennis Olsen. Lucas Auer with a 49.564. Then it was Dennis Olsen, Sheldon van der Linde for Schubert Motorsport, Kelvin van der Linde for Abt Sportsline. Then it was Thomas Preining for the Manthey team, Mercedes AMG team HRT for Lucas Stoltz, P6. P7 it was Ian-Chan Guven, P8 Lauren Heinrich. Then it was Mauro Engel, Marco Wittmann, the local driver. Then it's René Rast, Tim Heinemann, Mirko Bortolotti, Frank Pereira, Christian Engelhardt, David Schumacher, Arjun Maini, Ricardo Feller, Yusufa Vega, and Clemens Schmidt, then rounding out the top 20. Sound like a DJ then. In P21, Patrick Niederhauser ahead of Luca Engstler, Mattia Drudi, Mick Viso for Jack Aitken, Alessio Dellada, and Thierry Vermeulen. A lot of drivers with a lot of work to do, potentially, but there's only 1.6 seconds between P1 and P27. The top time coming from Lucas Auer. Spectators enjoying that free practice session, as indeed we did from the DTM, as there you can see engineers and support staff for the teams alike making their way down the pit lane here. And another free practice session to come a little bit later this afternoon, as Brian explained so comprehensively earlier on in our program, that the free practice sessions with perhaps more significance than ordinarily this is the case here at the Norisring. A wonderful circuit, brilliant that the DTM is here, and then the weather forecast for the weekend, which is absolutely gorgeous. The Franconian Monaco really does become Monaco-like. Isn't always that way, you know, when we come here. I've been here when it's been monsoon-like as well, but whatever the weather conditions, it is just a phenomenal place to be, which always delivers tremendously exciting racing, and that will be the case this weekend. Of that, you can have no doubt. Still cars making their way down the pit lane, and you can follow us on DTM.com. From Brian and from myself, thank you so much for watching. Join us this afternoon. Goodbye.